Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome from the City of South Fulton, Georgia Fire and Rescue Department, President of the International Association of Firefighters, Local 3920, Fire Captain Andrea M. Hall, for the reciting of the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
What you are all about to be part of, America, is a historic moment of firsts. To administer the oath to our first African American, our first Asian American, and our first woman Vice President, Kamala Harris, it is my great privilege to welcome to the inaugural stage the first Latina to ever serve on the Supreme Court of the United States of America, Justice Sonia Sotomayor.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for the oath of office, followed by musical honors.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Kamala Davy Harris, do solemnly swear
I, Kamala Davy Harris, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely,
that I take this obligation freely,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
that I will well and faithfully discharge
that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties of the office on which I am about to enter.
the duties of the office upon which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Please welcome Jennifer Lopez to perform This Land Is Your Land and America the Beautiful, accompanied by members of the President's own United States Marine Band.
This land is your land. This land is my land. From California flowing waters. This land was made for you and me. As I went walking down that ribbon of highway, I saw above me that endless skyway. I saw below me that golden valley. This land was made for you and me. Oh, this land, oh, this land. This land was made for you and me. Oh, this land, oh, this land. This land was made for you and me. You and me. Oh, America, God shed His grace on thee and crowned thy good with brotherhood. From sea to shining sea. Una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos. Let's get loud. This land was made for you and me.
Well, that was great. The sun is shining, and Mr. President-elect, this is the first inauguration in the history of America where J-Lo was the warm-up act for Chief Justice Roberts. With that, it is now my distinct honor to introduce the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States, John Roberts, to administer the presidential oath to the next President of the United States, Joseph R. Biden.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the oath of office, followed by musical honors.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., do solemnly swear
I, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the office of President of the United States
the office of President of the United States
and will, to the best of my ability,
and will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution of the United States.
the Constitution of the United States.
So help you God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr.
Thank you.
President.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated.
My fellow Americans, a moment we have all been waiting for. It is now my great privilege and high honor to be the first person to officially introduce the 46th President of the United States, Joseph R. Biden, Jr.
Chief Justice Roberts, Vice President Harris, Speaker Pelosi, Leader Schumer, Leader McConnell, Vice President Pence, and my distinguished guests, my fellow Americans. This is America's day. This is democracy's day, a day of history and hope, of renewal and resolve. Through a crucible for the ages, America has been tested anew, and America has risen to the challenge. Today, we celebrate the triumph not of a candidate, but of a cause, the cause of democracy. The people, the will of the people has been heard, and the will of the people has been heeded. We've learned again that democracy is precious. Democracy is fragile. And at this hour, my friends, democracy has prevailed. So now, on this hallowed ground where just a few days ago, violence sought to shake the Capitol's very foundation, we come together as one nation, under God, indivisible, to carry out the peaceful transfer of power as we have for more than 2 centuries. As we look ahead in our uniquely American way, restless, bold, optimistic, and set our sights on the nation we know we can be and we must be. I thank my predecessors of both parties for their presence here today. I thank them from the bottom of my heart. And I know the resilience of our Constitution and the strength of our nation, as does President Carter, who I spoke with last night, who cannot be with us today, but whom we salute for his lifetime in service. I've just taken the sacred oath each of those patriots have taken, the oath first sworn by George Washington. But the American story depends not on any one of us, not on some of us, but on all of us, on we the people who seek a more perfect union. This is a great nation. We are good people. And over the centuries, through storm and strife, in peace and in war, we've come so far, but we still have far to go. We'll press forward with speed and urgency, for we have much to do in this winter of peril and significant possibilities. Much to repair, much to restore, much to heal, much to build, and much to gain. Few people in our nation's history have been more challenged or found a time more challenging or difficult than the time we're in now. Once-in-a-century virus that silently stalks the country has taken as many lives in 1 year as America lost in all of World War II. Millions of jobs have been lost. Hundreds of thousands of businesses closed. A cry for racial justice, some 400 years in the making, moves us. The dream of justice for all will be deferred no longer. A cry for survival comes from the planet itself, a cry that can't be any more desperate or any more clear. And now, a rise of political extremism, white supremacy, domestic terrorism, that we must confront and we will defeat. To overcome these challenges, to restore the soul and secure the future of America, requires so much more than words. It requires the most elusive of all things in a democracy: unity. Unity. In another January, on New Year's Day in 1863, Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. When he put pen to paper, the president said, and I quote, "If my name ever goes down into history, it'll be for this act, and my whole soul is in it." My whole soul is in it. Today, on this January day, my whole soul is in this, bringing America together, uniting our people, uniting our nation. And I ask every American to join me in this cause. Uniting to fight the foes we face: anger, resentment and hatred, extremism, lawlessness, violence, disease, joblessness, and hopelessness. With unity, we can do great things, important things. We can right wrongs. We can put people to work in good jobs. We can teach our children in safe schools. We can overcome the deadly virus. We can reward work and rebuild the middle class and make health care secure for all. We can deliver racial justice, and we can make America once again the leading force for good in the world. I know speaking of unity can sound to some like a foolish fantasy these days. I know the forces that divide us are deep and they are real. But I also know they are not new. Our history has been a constant struggle between the American ideal that we're all are created equal and the harsh, ugly reality that racism, nativism, fear, demonization have long torn us apart. The battle is perennial, and victory is never assured. Through Civil War, the Great Depression, World War, 9/11, through struggle, sacrifice, and setbacks, our better angels have always prevailed. In each of these moments, enough of us have come together to carry all of us forward. And we can do that now. History, faith, and reason show the way of unity. We can see each other not as adversaries, but as neighbors. We can treat each other with dignity and respect. We can join forces, stop the shouting, and lower the temperature. For without unity, there is no peace, only bitterness and fury. No progress, only exhausting outrage. no nation, only a state of chaos. This is our historic moment of crisis and challenge, and unity is the path forward. And we must meet this moment as the United States of America. If we do that, I guarantee you we will not fail. We have never, ever, ever, ever failed in America when we've acted together. And so today, at this time, in this place, let's start afresh, all of us. Let's begin to listen to one another again, hear one another, see one another, show respect to one another. Politics doesn't have to be a raging fire, destroying everything in its path. Every disagreement doesn't have to be a cause for total war. And we must reject the culture in which facts themselves are manipulated and even manufactured. My fellow Americans, we have to be different than this. America has to be better than this. And I believe America is so much better than this. Just look around. Here we stand in the shadow of the Capitol Dome, as was mentioned earlier, completed amid the Civil War, when the Union itself was literally hanging in the balance. Yet we endured. We prevailed. Here we stand, looking out on the great mall where Dr. King spoke of his dream. Here we stand where 108 years ago, at another inaugural, thousands of protesters tried to block brave women marching for the right to vote. And today, we mark the swearing in of the first woman in American history elected to national office, Vice President Kamala Harris. Don't tell me things can't change. Here we stand across the Potomac from Arlington Cemetery, where heroes who gave the last full measure of devotion rest in eternal peace. And here we stand, just days after a riotous mob thought they could use violence to silence the will of the people, to stop the work of our democracy, to drive us from this sacred ground. It did not happen. It will never happen. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. Not ever. To all those who supported our campaign, I'm humbled by the faith you've placed in us. To all those who did not support us, let me say this. Hear me out as we move forward. Take a measure of me and my heart. And if you still disagree, so be it. That's democracy. That's America. The right to dissent peaceably within the guardrails of our republic is perhaps this nation's greatest strength. Yet hear me clearly. Disagreement must not lead to disunion. And I pledge this to you. I will be a president for all Americans. All Americans. And I promise you, I will fight as hard for those who did not support me as for those who did. Many centuries ago, St. Augustine, a saint of my church, wrote that a people was a multitude defined by the common objects of their love. Defined by the common objects of their love. What are the common objects we as Americans love that define us as Americans? I think we know. Opportunity, security, liberty, dignity, respect, honor, and yes, the truth. Recent weeks and months have taught us a painful lesson. There is truth and there are lies. Lies told for power and for profit. And each of us has a duty and a responsibility as citizens, as Americans, and especially as leaders. Leaders who have pledged to honor our Constitution and protect our nation, to defend the truth and defeat the lies. Look, I understand that many of my fellow Americans view the future with fear and trepidation. I understand they worry about their jobs. I understand, like my dad, they lay at bed at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering, can I keep my health care? Can I pay my mortgage? Thinking about their families, about what comes next. I promise you, I get it. But the answer is not to turn inward, to retreat into competing factions, distrusting those who don't look like you, or worship the way you do, or don't get their news from the same sources you do. We must end this uncivil war that pits red against blue, rural versus urban, conservative versus liberal. We can do this if we open our souls instead of hardening our hearts, if we show a little tolerance and humility, and if we're willing to stand in the other person's shoes, as my mom would say, just for a moment, stand in their shoes. Because here's the thing about life. There's no accounting for what fate will deal you. Some days, when you need a hand. There are other days when we're called to lend a hand. That's how it has to be. That's what we do for one another. And if we are this way, our country will be stronger, more prosperous, more ready for the future. And we can still disagree. My fellow Americans, in the work ahead of us, we're going to need each other. We need all our strength to persevere through this dark winter. We're entering what may be the toughest and deadliest period of the virus. We must set aside politics and finally face this pandemic as one nation. One nation. And I promise you this, as the Bible says, weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. We will get through this together. Together. Look, folks, all my colleagues I serve with in the House and the Senate up here, we all understand the world is watching all of us today. So here's my message to those beyond our borders. America has been tested, and we've come out stronger for it. We will repair our alliances and engage with the world once again, not to meet yesterday's challenges, but today's and tomorrow's challenges. And we'll lead not merely by the example of our power, but by the power of our example. We'll be a strong and trusted partner for peace, progress, and security. Look, you all know we've been through so much in this nation. And my first act as president, I'd like to ask you to join me in a moment of silent prayer. Remember all those who we lost in this past year to the pandemic. Those 400,000 fellow Americans, moms, dads, husbands, wives, sons, daughters, friends, neighbors, and co-workers. We'll honor them by becoming the people and the nation we know we can and should be. So I ask you, let's say a silent prayer for those who've lost their lives and those left behind, and for our country. Amen. Folks, this is a time of testing. We face an attack on our democracy and on truth, a raging virus, growing inequity, the sting of systemic racism, a climate in crisis, America's role in the world. Any one of these would be enough to challenge us in profound ways. But the fact is, we face them all at once, presenting this nation with one of the gravest responsibilities we've had. Now we're going to be tested. Are we going to step up, all of us, It's time for boldness, for there is so much to do. And this is certain. I promise you, we will be judged, you and I, by how we resolve these cascading crises of our era. We will rise to the occasion is the question. Will we master this rare and difficult hour? Will we meet our obligations and pass along a new and better world to our children? I believe we must. I'm sure you do as well. I believe we will. And when we do, we'll write the next great chapter in the history of the United States of America, the American story. A story that might sound something like a song that means a lot to me. It's called American Anthem. There's one verse that stands out, at least for me, and it goes like this. The work and prayers of century have brought us to this day. What shall be our legacy? What will our children say? Let me know in my heart when my days are through. America, America, I gave my best to you. Let's us add our own work and prayers to the unfolding story of our great nation. If we do this, then when our days are through, our children and our children's children will say of us, they gave their best, they did their duty, they healed a broken land. My fellow Americans, I close the day where I began, with the sacred oath. Before God and all of you, I give you my word. I will always level with you. I will defend the Constitution. I'll defend our democracy. I'll defend America. And I'll give all of you, keep everything I do in your service, thinking not of power, but of possibilities, not of personal interest, but the public good. And together, we shall write an American story of hope, not fear, of unity, not division, of light, not darkness, a story of decency and dignity, love and healing, greatness and goodness. May this be the story that guides us, the story that inspires us, and the story that tells ages yet to come that we answered the call of history. We met the moment. Democracy and hope, truth and justice did not die on our watch, but thrived. That America secured liberty at home and stood once again as a beacon to the world. That is what we owe our forebears, one another, and generation to follow. So, with purpose and resolve, we turn to those tasks of our time, sustained by faith, driven by conviction, and devoted to one another and the country we love with all our hearts. May God bless America, and may God protect our troops. Thank you, America.
Ezra Levant here in Toronto at the world headquarters of Rebel News. You've been watching a speech read by Joe Biden, the new president of the United States. A little bit of celebrity sizzle. That's the Democrats for you, the party of the entertainment elites and the media. Today is the best day, in 4 years for the Democrats' base, and by that I mean the media. The kind of stories we've seen over the last few weeks, Kamala Harris's shoes, the new dog at the White House. What are they cooking? Did you know that Joe Biden and his wife haggle every day to see who gets to go on the Peloton? I mean, the stories that have been presented as news stories by the same press corps that was a pack of jackals with Donald Trump. This is not a honeymoon with Joe Biden. It is a permanent state of affairs. You'll find that for the next 4 years, there is no homelessness in America. There is all the problems that were laid at the feet of Donald Trump. In fact, Donald Trump resolved so many of them, especially with his economic growth. You will find that there's nothing to quarrel with. I fear that the instruments of democracy, the checks and balances, have been put in the freezer for 4 years. I didn't mind the speech. I didn't think it was particularly eloquent. But most importantly, I know that Joe Biden didn't write a word of it. I doubt he can remember a word of it. When Joe Biden participated in the presidential debates, I felt that he was sharper than he is normally. I mean, we've seen videos of him losing his train of thought, mispronouncing words, forgetting where he is, forgetting people, that weird one where he bit his wife's finger very strangely. I think they give him some shots, I don't know, adrenaline, caffeine, vitamin B, whatever. He's up for half an hour and then he practically collapses. I think he's 78 years old and he's in visible decline. I think it's extremely unlikely he will make it to term in his presidency. It wouldn't surprise me if they keep him around almost in a Weekend at Bernie's type way, even if he is non-compos mentis, because having him as a goofy, grandfatherly figurehead is much more useful than having Kamala Harris as the mainstream face of the presidency. Of course, Kamala Harris excites the extremist base of the Democratic Party. As you could see today, you know, she's the first black vice president and the first Indian vice president and the first, so she's all about the intersectional wokeness. The funny thing is that when she was an attorney, when she was a prosecuting attorney in California, she was vicious towards the black community. She would literally prosecute parents whose kids were truant. When your kids don't go to school, when you're a single mom, when there's gang problems, when you're trying to get your kids to go to school, being prosecuted by Kamala Harris, that's not a solution. And I dare say that's not someone who gives a damn about the black community in real life. But as a symbol of grievance politics, she's perfect. But only for certain sectors. I think if you had Kamala Harris and her screeching laugh and her extreme inauthenticity as the main face of the Democrats, they would do quite poorly. Keep Joe Biden around with that rictus grin, face tightened by plastic surgery. Have him read meaningless cliches that, I mean, seriously, 90% of that speech is already forgotten. The rest is not true. When he says he'll stand for the Constitution, he most certainly won't, because the Constitution includes the Bill of Rights, which would include the First Amendment for free speech. He has repeatedly says he wants to crack down on that. The Second Amendment is the right to bear arms. He's repeatedly said he wants to crack down on that. Even the inauguration itself, with 25,000 American troops in Washington, D.C., with a police state, with those troops being politically vetted before they're deployed, is the most shocking authoritarianism that's contrary to the spirit of the American Constitution. The endless talk about dealing with Americans as racial or gender or religious atoms, blobs, that you actually don't have an individuality, but rather you're just put into a racial or gender category. That's very un-American. He talked about an era of peace, but in fact, it was Donald Trump who did not start a single war in his 4 years as president. I can't recall the last president who could say that. Obama was not only king of the drone strikes, but he invaded or toppled half a dozen countries, including most disastrously, Libya. I'm pretty sure that was on Obama's watch. I'd have to look up the year on that. I think that was, 2013. Before that, George W. Bush famously attacking half the Arab world. Before that, Bill Clinton, battles everywhere. Before that, George W. Bush, Ronald Reagan. Now, with Reagan, he was in a Cold War. He was in an existential grapple with the Soviets. But what's the excuse of everyone from Clinton on? Donald Trump did not start any wars. He brought home troops, sometimes against the heavy resistance of the deep state, especially the generals. The generals don't like a guy who doesn't start wars. And miraculously, it was Donald Trump who arranged the peace between Israel and half a dozen Arab countries. It was Donald Trump who they said would start a war with Iran. Not at all. He just stopped funding them. Donald Trump didn't start a war with North Korea. He put them in the fridge. Now, he didn't get them to totally come over to the West, but he certainly put them on ice, didn't he? How long do you think it'll be before Joe Biden declares war on someone, something, somewhere? Do you think it'll be months? Do you think it'll be weeks? I'm not going to pay too much attention to that speech because I don't really think it's relevant what an aging, forgetful, early stage Alzheimer's patient reads put in front of him or a teleprompter for his few moments of clarity a day. I don't really care what some speechwriter puts in front of him because I don't think he remembers it or even means it. I don't know who the power sources are yet in the government, who the hand behind the throne is. Is it the chief of staff? It's a powerful position. Is it an elected official? Is it Kamala Harris? What's the role of the squad? Are they just for show? Are there consultants or lobbyists? Are there economic interests? I don't know. Are there foreign interests? I don't know. One thing I do know is you will not see the sort of scrutiny brought to bear on Biden and his family and his White House that you saw brought to bear on Trump and his family and his White House. One thing that I think is going to be very interesting, there were some notes of reconciliation. There's not blue America, red America, we must unite. Yeah, Barack Obama said that too, and he didn't mean it. But there's a special anger and vengeance in the Democrats these days. And I think we will know very soon if the Democrats intend to continue with any official power their inquisition and extirpation of anyone who is remotely associated with Trump, the Trump administration, the Trump campaign, Trump voting, Trump anything. It'll be interesting to see if they try to investigate him using the resources and powers of the government. I can't imagine that they won't. I think that's an important difference between the Republicans and the Democrats. I think if it were this moment in Republicans, there would be victory and wow, let's do our stuff. I think there's there's an action plan that the Democrats have. We saw the day one plans for the administration, including canceling the Keystone XL pipeline. But besides, let's go govern, let's go do our thing, there is such a vengeance in the air in the Democrat, like the wildness of 4 years of pent-up impotence against a powerful president will now be unleashed. That's my fear. It's 12:24. I don't want to spend all day talking about that inauguration because I don't actually think it's what to watch. I think it's a distraction. I think Hollywood, the entertainment business, the music business, they know their role is to distract and entertain. Bread and circuses, as the Romans used to know. It'll be interesting. He talks about the pandemic and how it's bad. On the one hand, he wants things to get better economically. On the other hand, he likes the perpetual crisis of the lockdown and the license it gives him to engage in other infractions over civil liberties in America and the knock-on effect up here in Canada too. He talks about a 100-day mask mandate in his to-do list. So we're well into the spring now. It's never ending. That'll be over a year. This 2 weeks to flatten the curve will be into its second year by then. Oh well. Here, let's go through some super chats and then let's try and bring things back. I do have a clip from Trump's goodbye speech. Why don't we do that as a palate cleanser, you know? Why don't we watch a little... Well, you know what? I actually don't know what clips you have, but I'll let you choose one or two clips from the president, the ex-president, Donald Trump, of his thoughts on the end of his 4-year term. So go ahead, Justin, whatever you have there that you think.
My fellow Americans, 4 years ago, we launched a great national effort to rebuild our country, to renew its spirit, and to restore the allegiance of this government to its citizens. In short, we embarked on a mission to make America great again for all Americans. As I conclude my term as the 45th President of the United States, I stand before you truly proud of what we have achieved together. We did what we came here to do, and so much more. This week, we inaugurate a new administration and pray for its success in keeping America safe and prosperous. We extend our best wishes, and we also want them to have luck, a very important word. I'd like to begin by thanking just a few of the amazing people who made our remarkable journey possible. First, let me express my overwhelming gratitude for the love and support of our spectacular First Lady, Melania. Let me also share my deepest appreciation to my daughter Ivanka, my son-in-law Jared, and to Barron, Don, Eric, Tiffany, and Lara. You fill my world with light and with joy. I also want to thank Vice President Mike Pence, his wonderful wife Karen, and the entire Pence family. Thank you as well to my Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, the dedicated members of the White House staff, and the cabinet, and all of the incredible people.
The speech goes on for some moments. There's some interesting excerpts. I won't go through it all now, but let me just remark on the different appearance. Donald Trump is in his 70s as well, but would you not agree with me? I think he's 74, is that right, 74? I think he's 4 years younger than Joe Biden, but doesn't he look 20 years younger, physically? And when Joe Biden is reading from the teleprompter, it's like his mind is elsewhere and he's just trying to read the words right without getting mixed up. Donald Trump is speaking, he's surely reading a teleprompter as well, but you can see the level of alertness and with itness. I truly believe that Joe Biden is the kind of guy that if he was your grandparent, you would encourage him not to drive anymore. You would say, oh, I'll drive you, Grandpa, that's okay. And he would be writing down little notes, remembering things, remembering people's names. He would be writing little notes down like that. Instead, he's being put into the White House at one of the most dangerous moments in history. All right, let's read some super chats. Fraser McBurney, $5. Why are you forcing us to watch The Pretender? He's just a useless person. Well, because that is the era we are in now. And while I'm pessimistic, I also understand that we must know what's going on so we can observe it, comment on it, and if warranted and applicable, act on it. Fraser, again, I tried to use the word idiot, but it wouldn't go through. Yeah, well, the era of censorship is just getting revved up. If you thought it was bad when Trump was in power, he was pushing back somewhat against the tech giants. Now the tech giants are in the most senior positions than the Biden administration. We'll have to do a show where we outline that. Viking, insane, $2, no free nations remain, first time since 1770s. Well, I'm worried about that, but there are other sources of power and influence in the United States. It doesn't all turn on who's in the White House. It's a powerful position. Unfortunately, the Senate is also in the hands of the Democrats, as is the Congress. I am absolutely certain they're going to try and pack the courts, add states like Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C., bring in give citizenship to 11 million illegals. I mean, forget about it. If you had once you lose Texas, the Republicans will never win again. So that's what that'll do. Mundane 44.5 euros. What comes next? Communism? Well, hopefully not. But empires rise and fall. Do you think things go on forever? America had a good run. I hope it's not over yet. Viking Insane, $2. Here comes Joe to usher in a great leap forward. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if he's alert to what's going on. That's the thing. I mean, his platform actually had the Green New Deal. He had one extra word in there or something. And he said, oh, no, it's not the Green New Deal. It's my own green revolution. Same thing. So, yeah, I'm worried. If I was in an extractive industry, if I was in oil, gas, fracking, pipeline, shipping, trucking, factories, anything, coal, mining, anything industrial, I would be very worried right now. Michael, $5. I hope you realize that nobody cares about the evil dictating government moving in. Well, I think you're very wrong there, and I think you care too. An alien viewpoint, $20. As for likes and dislikes, YouTube sees them too. Send a message at least. Yeah, if folks want to put a, you know what, I was looking at the video, and because for the longest time there, it was just Joe Biden talking. There are 735 dislikes on this video already, and only 373 likes. And I know that was before I came on. We just wanted to let you watch the inauguration for yourself. Can you make me feel better and click on like? And I want to let you know that my emotional state does not depend on likes and dislikes. It really doesn't. But I just don't want people to think that you were giving me the thumbs down if, in fact, you were giving Biden the thumbs down. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. Viking Insane, $2. Joe Biden is a modern-day Henry VI. You know, I need to study Henry VI. I know some of the other monarchs, but I don't know Henry VI. You know, I was showing one of the kids the other day, and I know sometimes people get frustrated when I go on tangents, but when we have time, and I don't know if we ever will, I'd like to show you one of the most fascinating things, I think. And I'm not going to do it right now. We'll do it when we're bored. It's the signatures of the different British monarchs. And I know you're thinking, Ezra, what? Please don't do that, Ezra. Please don't go on a 5-minute tangent about the signatures of British monarchs. No one cares. You're crazy. Don't show people the crazy side. Get back to the news. So did you get the document I sent you? Put it up for 30 seconds, and then we'll move on. I just want to tell you, okay, so it's, maybe you can find something that's not on Pinterest, but we'll go through that one day. Look at Elizabeth, Queen Elizabeth I, right in the middle there. Can you put it with your mouse? That is the signature, the autograph of Queen Elizabeth I. We'll have to find it on a different forum besides. We'll talk about that. There's some insane signatures there. Edward is one of my favorite. There's some, and look at, go up, I think Richard. Yeah, look at that at the top left there. Some unbelievable, we'll come back to that later. Okay, we're done. We're done. Don't worry, everybody. I'm not going to speak Latin. I'm not going to show you any more signatures. You just made me think about it when you mentioned Henry VI or VII. Oh boy, there's a lot of good questions here. Viking Insane, $2. Seeing flags rather than people as North Korean. You're talking about the fact that there was just flags and no people there. It was very odd. I found it a little bit like a Soviet Red Square parade. David Koziar. Ezra, any theories on what Trump might do? Run in 2024 or maybe start a third party and gain supporters that way? Appreciate you and Rebel. God bless. Well, I heard a rumor that, I mean, not directly, I saw it reported, that he was contemplating starting a new party called the Patriot Party. It's just a rumor, but remember Teddy Roosevelt started the Bull Moose Party. I don't know enough about my American history to give you details about that, but there is some similarities. Both are populist men, both railed against other institutional powers in the establishment. Teddy Roosevelt, of course, in some measures more successful than Trump. That would be deadly to the Republican Party. When Ross Perot ran for president as the leader of, I think it was called the Reform Party. I don't know, it's about 40 years ago now, 35 years ago. He drew enough votes away from the Republicans to allow Bill Clinton to win. Donald Trump would do even better, and it would be a disaster for the Republicans, not only in terms of vote splitting, but in terms of fundraising, talent, and of course the narrative, the editorial narrative that the media party would use. I think the Republican Party has to come to terms with Trump and his role in it, and MAGA supporters, because they are for Trump first. They're not for Mitch McConnell. Let's give the man credit. He put amazing judges on the bench. Now, they were nominated by Trump. Give Trump credit for that. But you must agree that Mitch McConnell moved those judges through quickly, in great number, and with courage. To put that last judge through, Amy Coney Barrett, was perhaps the hardest. I mean, Brett Kavanaugh was also very hard. 3 Supreme Court judges and lots of other high court judges. So give the man credit for that. But if there was a question of who is more, and by the way, Mitch McConnell chose the 2 loser candidates that the Republicans ran in Georgia. I don't think that there is love for Mitch McConnell in the party like the way there is love for Trump. In fact, I don't think anyone else comes close. The party needs to find a way to deal with Trump in the post-Trump era, or else whatever he does will simply suck energy, time, money, enthusiasm away from the party. Trump is the biggest voice in the room. He sucks all the oxygen out of any room. We know that because we saw how he was in the presidential primaries in 2015-16. It was like him and then everyone else, and you can barely even remember them. They were all, it was like a Gulliver's Travels. It was like Gulliver in the land of Lilliput. There's this one giant and then everyone else is as small as mice. Awaken Jaguar, €2. Check out Awaken Jaguar. Bless up. Okay. Greg Graham, $5. Biden is already at war with freedom of speech and conservatives. He said the words freedom and liberty, or at least the word liberty in the speech. He just said the word constitution. Like I say, I don't even care what he said because I know he didn't write it. I doubt he understood it as he was saying it, and he certainly didn't remember it after he said it. Brackathor, $5. With Joe as president, I predict Rebel News gets banned from YouTube within 4 years after that censorship legislation comes. How will you preempt this? Ha! You give it that long? You think we'll last 4 years? I'm not just worried about Joe Biden. I'm worried about Justin Trudeau, who in the Globe and Mail the other day, it was reported, is not only bringing in new censorship for social media, he's setting up a whole new government department to be in charge of it. We'll have to go deeper into that story another day. An Alien Viewpoint, $20. Rebel News, insightful journalism. Thank you for that. Christina Pavlovska, $7. Today this speech was impossible to watch on YouTube. Was labeled as private. Okay, Oh, you mean Trump's speech? Yes, they have been deleting. Can you believe it? YouTube, I saw a tweet to this effect. YouTube has been mass deleting historical speeches by Trump. Can you believe it? Dirty Dogs Inc., $7. What does this mean for Canadians? Well, I think it means 2 things. I mean, whatever happens in America has an impact on Canada because we're close neighbors, allies, business partners, culturally similar, et cetera. So, for example, America lurching to the left, America embracing cancel culture, censorship, racial division, socialism. I think all these things are bad for America, which is bad for Canada, but they also encourage the worst instincts of the Canadian political class. Justin Trudeau will harmonize down to the bad example of the United States. And then there's particular things. For example, one of the day one projects of Biden is reportedly to nix the Keystone XL pipeline. So that's thousands of Canadian jobs that will be killed by that. Joe Biden apparently prefers OPEC conflict oil to Canadian ethical oil. Ian McKicker, $2. Biden is president. God help America. God help us all. Well, yeah. Daniel Bryson, $7. For Justin. There you go. Chris Lynch, $5. Off topic, but thoughts on whether conservative MPs vote out Sloan today or not. Also, we'll know who votes yea or nay. Thoughts on Sloan's future. Okay. Will we know? I think it's a secret vote. Thank you for that. We will talk some more about American stuff, but there's a lot of Canadian things I want to talk about too. It's 12:41 Eastern. I understand that 11 a.m. today. In fact, you want to check some Twitters? For Canadians, and that's probably most people watching right now, Derek Sloan is a conservative MP who challenged the leadership of the party and had a respectable showing and remains in the caucus of the party. But in a shocking and bizarre move, the leader, Aaron O'Toole, said he wanted to fire Derek Sloan because someone donated money on Derek Sloan's website under a pen name, Frederick P. Fromm, and it turned out to be Paul Fromm, who's a notorious racist. That's 1 in 10,000 donations that came in through a website. Obviously, Derek Sloan himself didn't see that. It was a small donation. No one knows who Frederick P. Fromm is. Probably no one knows who Paul Fromm is. To fire a guy without even the courtesy of a phone call to him is bizarre. Awful politics, awful caucus management, awful, what party member can trust him, what a capricious weirdo Aaron O'Toole is. The Liberals are delighted. But apparently in Canada, I don't know the law well, to kick someone out of a caucus, you have to have some sort of a vote of the caucus. Can't just, that's actually, I think, a law of Canada now. So apparently that was happening at 11 a.m. Do we know if there's any results from that? Justin, who looks, tells me that there is no answer. I'm not surprised. It's such a contentious thing. There's 121 MPs, 20 senators, 141 people. I would imagine a great many of them have something to say. And I understand from reports that Derek Sloan himself intended to fight the charge. It's fascinating that it's a secret vote, because I would imagine that there's people who hate Derek Sloan and are going to say so and vote against him. And then I imagine there's people who like Derek Sloan who will say so publicly, and others who like him but won't say so publicly because they don't want to be punished by the leader. And finally, there's probably MPs who think what Aaron O'Toole has done to Derek Sloan is outrageous, atrocious, unethical, and sneaky, and don't think Derek Sloan should be fired, but understand that if the caucus doesn't vote to fire him, it's essentially a vote of non-confidence in Aaron O'Toole. That is, if the leader of a party says to an MP, "Get out, you're fired," and then it goes to a secret vote of all the MPs, and it comes back, "No, we're not firing him," that's almost a message to Aaron O'Toole, "You've got to quit, buddy. You've got to resign. You don't have the will of the group." So it's very tricky. So if you were for Derek Sloan, you could say so and vote for Sloan, but then you're forever going to be in the bad books of Aaron O'Toole. You could not say anything and vote for Eric Sloan. Or you could actually say, "This is so terrible, but I'm going to vote to kick out Sloan because otherwise I'm really throwing out our party's new leader, and an election is months away, and we just went through a leadership, and this is a terrible situation." So you might have some pro-Sloan people voting for O'Toole just to save the party. You'll have some other people who claim to be pro-O'Toole but are actually for Sloan, and we'll never know because it's secret voting. What an innovation. I like it. And by the way, I would vote for Sloan, and I would say so publicly. And I would say, if I was in the caucus, I would say, even if you don't like Derek Sloan, you can't fire a guy in a whimsical, ridiculous manner like that. No phone call, trumped up charges, fake excuse. You can't run anything. You can't run a company like that. You would lose the confidence of your staff. And by the way, a caucus is not a company. Aaron O'Toole did not hire those MPs. They were elected by the voters. So you don't have it's not a sole proprietorship. Now, who is in a particular party is of some proprietary power for the leader. But as these democracy, rule, law, whatever the name of the law is, you have to have a vote. I don't know if Aaron O'Toole would win that vote, other than people realizing that if he loses it, he's probably gone as leader. Benny B. the dog Beausoleil, $25. Well, thanks, Benny B. Now, if Beausoleil, that sounds Francais, I think that means good son. Now, I don't know if you are in Quebec, but I am today, well, I shouldn't say today, this week, recording an announcement en français. That means in French. A big announcement for our Quebec viewers. And Benny B. the dog Beausoleil, you're going to want to see this. Enough said for now. Ryan LaPierre, another name that could be Francais. LaPierre, The Rock. $10. I'm in total bewilderment as to how such intelligent personalities like Bill Maher and Sam Harris feel that the election of Biden is in step in the right direction. Well, there is something called Trump derangement syndrome. It's a personal or personality or aesthetic thing. Sometimes it's just the madness of crowds. I truly believe that many people will come to miss Donald Trump. They'll miss the peace of the Donald Trump years. They'll miss the economic prosperity. They'll miss a guy fighting for the right to be offensive, rude, free speechy, unwoke, because when the wokeness comes in, you'll miss the freedom when it's gone. And I got to tell you, I already miss the humor, the entertainment value, the pure joy of that man, replaced by a cadaverous Alzheimer's patient who makes 20 minutes of, like Donald Trump would hold court in 2-hour press conferences without a note, and he would masterfully parry the roughest questions. What was so incredible to Trump is you could tell the reporters he hated, Jim Acosta of CNN being a key example. But did he not call on Jim Acosta every day? I mean, like every day. So did he really hate Jim Acosta, or did he like the banter, the back and forth? Compare that to our cowardly Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, who can't take a single tough question, not that any would be offered, and literally sends lawyers to courts to keep rebel news out of his scrums and his debates commissions. We're going to miss Donald Trump, and you know what? Even his haters will. Imagine you're Jim Acosta, and now you got to cover that, dying man who just gave that speech that he didn't even understand. Yeah, that's not fun. Let me say this, if Donald Trump starts a new project, like the Patriot Party or whatever, he will get more coverage than the sitting president of the United States, because no one cares what Biden has to say, because no one believes Biden even says it, and Biden only has about enough energy to hold it together for half an hour a day. David Timmons, $5, thank you. Ginger Marshall, $20, thank you. New social media platform, but they won't let me put in WV2C, live for free speech. I'm sorry, I don't know what those mean. Alberta Guy, $7, I've lost all hope with any Western government. Is there any light at the end of the tunnel for us Canadians? Well, let me say this, and I've got a friend who had a tough go in his life, and I remember, maybe I told you this, and I went down and I visited him. He was under house arrest. And he wasn't doing great at the time. And I won't say who it was. And he said, Ezra, think about our grandparents' generation, my friend's a Jew, in the Holocaust, in the concentration camps, in the ghetto, whatever, in Second World War. And you don't even have to be Jewish to think that way. Think about the threat of fascism and Nazism. Forget about the Jews, they had it bad. But everybody, the war, millions dying. Russia lost, 20 million Russians in the war. If you were born in 1927 in Russia and a male, I think the majority, maybe I got to check that fact, I'm going from memory, I hope I'm not wrong. The majority of Russian boys born in 1927, I better check that, were killed. Maybe I got my year wrong, maybe it's 1925. But you were born in Russia, and Russia was invaded in 1942? Trying to go from memory here. So if you were born in 1927, you would have been 15. Okay, maybe I got my year wrong. Maybe it was 1923. Thank you. That makes more sense. Can you put that on the screen, whatever you're looking at there? 1923, that makes more sense, because that means you would have been 17. Okay. Was the Soviet 1923 male birth cohort doomed by World War II? Okay, so almost 80% or 68 of the males born, BuzzFeed claim is overstated. 68% of the original 1923 male cohort did not survive World War II. Atrocious survival rate. There was the war. So there you go. Males born in the Soviet Union in 1923. No. There would have been much more than 3,400 males born in the Soviet Union. Oh, these are in thousands, right. Okay, so you had 3.4 million boys born in that. Now that sounds a little high, but let's accept it. Infant mortality, childhood mortality, famine and terror, surviving the 1941, wartime mortality, surviving the 1946. All right. You get my point. Being born in 1923 in the Soviet Union has got to be one of the worst things to happen to anybody, and that's just random chance. A great number of Americans and Canadians and Brits died in that war too, a great number of Frenchmen. It would be a disaster to be a German in World War II. So forget what my friend was saying about the Jews. Anyone. Imagine being born in 1940 in China. So you've got wars, and then you've got Mao Zedong, and then you've got his Great Leap Forward, and you've got his Cultural Revolution. What was it, 60 million of his own countrymen that he murdered? So you ask, is there any light at the end of the tunnel for us Canadians? I say, of course there is. And if you have reason to despair, and you do, compare that to someone unlucky enough to be born in Moscow or Stalingrad in 1923, or to be born in Peking in 1940, or to be born in Warsaw in 1930. So yeah, there's reason for hope also. Ariel Alder King, $5, Trump speech on Dinesh D'Souza. I don't know what you mean. Viking Insane, $2. O'Toole is politically dead on arrival. Conservative Party of Canada also by extension. I think that whatever chance Aaron O'Toole had winning the election is done. The Liberals have managed to get him to paint himself as a racist, or at least battling racists within his own party. I think by falsely accusing Derek Sloan, whose wife and kids, by the way, are visible minorities, by falsely accusing Sloan of being a racist, O'Toole has alienated a tremendous number of party members, not just Sloan supporters. And more than any of that, O'Toole shows he doesn't know how to handle himself or his team or issues. He's like a cat that you take that laser pointer and the cat chases it. The Liberal War Room hasn't said a lot in the last 10 days. They haven't had to, because O'Toole's doing all their work for them. It's incredible, very sad. Malcolm T, $5, what do you think is going to happen to U.S.-Canada relations in the coming years? Oh, well, at a Trudeau to Biden level, it's going to be very warm. As you may know, senior Democrat strategists ran Trudeau's 2 election campaigns. That's not an accusation, that's a reported fact. So it's going to be very good at that level. Disastrous for us people on the ground. Betty B, the dog, Beau Soleil. 15 smackers. Merci beaucoup, mon ami. That's français. That's français. So is the word menu. Just want to let you know. Kennedy, a lot of English words come from French. Your name's French. I'm not going to say your last name on TV. Kenny Dion, $10. What are your thoughts that Sloan was fired for starting this petition? I'm going to click on that petition. And it's right. It's about vaccines and not wanting to have informed consent for vaccines. Well, that's certainly part of it, isn't it? That's certainly part of it, because they don't like a guy who thinks independently like that. Let's keep reading here. Ty Queen, $5. Thank you. Kane Enmark, $5. Rocking out the Rebel Twittered hoodie. Shout out to Justin. Merci beaucoup. That's français. Ginger Marshall, $20. Is there a new platform opening up that hopefully will replace this one? Is it www.v2c.live for free speech? They won't let me put it in as they are censorship. Oh, the censorship's off the hook. I mean, like it is. When you're deleting existing historical speeches by the President of the United States, when you were deleting those, that's Stalinism. That's what Stalin would do. He would have photos, this is before the era of Photoshop, he would have photos altered to remove people who fell out of favor. The very famous photo, you know what I'm talking about? That diptych of the two photos of Stalin where someone was erased out. So that's been going on since photography was a thing. Now, it's done with algorithms, with the push of a button. But 70 years ago, Stalin, I just want to show those two photos, very famous. Stalin standing by a river, I think, with some other people, and there's two versions of it. They're often shown side by side. Yeah, there we go. So there's Stalin, and then there's Stalin. And I don't even remember who that guy is, but it doesn't matter. He was thrown down, as Orwell would say, thrown down the memory hole. Donald J. Trump, as sitting president, gave a speech. You can like it or dislike it, you can ignore it or you can watch it, you can even find it offensive. I don't think it was offensive, but Google has said not only is it bad, but it is so bad we will alter the historical record and delete it. How's that not something that Uncle Joe there would have done? And by Uncle Joe, I mean Stalin. That's the nickname the New York Times gave him. David Timmons, $5. Hey, Ezra, rumor is Ron DeSantis might be running. What do you think? Well, he's excellent. He's my favorite governor, so I hope so. Ken Enmark, $5. Mr. Sloan should join the CCP. I think you mean the PCP. There's whatever. People's Party, PPC. What do you think about that? Well, I think he very much wants to stay in the Conservative Party. Isn't that evident? Brackathor, $5. Klan supremacy is the main trump card for all the censors. Is a Klan supremacist expressing his Democrat right a real issue or a smokescreen? I got to tell you, I don't know what you mean. Do you mean like a Ku Klux Klan? Or are you using the word Klan like clannishness, like tribalism? Sorry, I just don't know what you mean. It's 12:59. There is one video I want to show. It's from Manitoba. I see in McKecker, $2. Poland lost 23% of its population in World War II. Can't imagine. Yeah, I mean, that's just so horrific. So when people say, oh my God, yeah, I say that too. But put it in perspective. Hey, take a look at this. This is from Winnipeg, Manitoba. One of the worst jurisdictions in Canada in terms of the extremeness of the lockdown. Just take a look at this. It's about 2.5 minutes, right? Take a listen.
Our next set of questions comes from Joe at Global News. The city of Winnipeg has been operating its in-house gyms exclusively for employees during the level red. The city says it got permission to do so from the province. Can you confirm the city was given permission and why?
So we weren't given, specific permission. Our public health orders don't apply to any levels of government. So they don't apply to federal, provincial, or municipal governments. So, so I am aware of health inspectors had visited some of these gyms and found them safe. But the real issue, they weren't given an exemption outside of the order. The order itself doesn't apply to governments.
Second question, so why can't small apartments or condo or family gyms operate following the same guidelines used by the city?
Well, this is the same thing about how quickly we open things up, right? It always comes down to this. So we expect governments to be able to regulate, and so we're not going to tell governments how they function. And so if they feel that they could have a limited capacity and run these gyms for their employees for certain reasons, then we're not regulating that. When we open it up to the public, then it becomes many more Manitobans involved in it, many more centers. And so it's again, we're getting back to where we were in October and November. We constantly hear from Manitobans, from businesses about how safe their operation.
I don't even want to listen to the rest of that. I can't stand that guy. Just, did you hear what he said? So gyms are shut down everywhere, except if you work for the government. Now, I'm not talking about police who should work out for the job or firemen. Okay, let's put that aside. You're some schmuck, some bureaucrat in some government union, probably spent most of the last 10 months at home on paid furlough, catching up on your Netflix. You can go to the city's gym because the rules don't apply to you? Oh, yeah, the rules don't apply to the government. What? Of course they do, you wicked liar. You absolute cheater. You brazen deceiver. Of course the health directives apply to every person. We don't treat the government class, those mooches, like they're exempt from the punishments that the rest of us have. They have to obey the criminal code. They have to obey health codes. They have to obey the law, unless there's some explicit carve-out, which there is not. But the absolutely calm, confident manner in which that wicked liar lies tells you everything you need to know about the lockdown and those who enjoy stabbing you with it. And then when you're not looking, they go to the gym, their own secret gym, paid by you. That's the worst part, is your taxes pay for it. And then they sneak away to their beach vacations while telling you not to travel. Those are the worst people. I guess what I'm saying is we got our work to do here in Canada. We can't just kvetch about Joe Biden. There's just 3 more super chats. I'll get through and break it through $2. I meant racial supremacy, but it was censored. Okay. Travis Colson, $7. Liberty, calm, new platform. All right. Mike Lazinski, $2. How many cities will set ablaze tonight? Yeah, none. Unless it's in Joe Biden's interest. I mean, remember, Black Lives Matter started torching things on Barack Obama's watch as sort of a street team just to start polarizing the population before the election in 2016. Dave Sobrani, $7. Look what government in Latin, he, it tells everything. Okay, I'll do that. Now, it's very dangerous to ask me to do anything about Latin because then I just go down some stupid tangent for 5 minutes. Like, I really love showing the signatures of the British monarchs. They're fascinating. And remember, most of those were in eras of mass illiteracy. So a signature would have to be like a symbol. So for example, Queen Elizabeth I, when she wrote the most fancy signature you'll ever see was Queen Elizabeth I. And my theory, this is my own view, is it wasn't just her way of expressing how fancy and powerful she was. It was so that even if you were illiterate, you could say, oh, I recognize that. That's the mark of the Queen. Just a guess on my part. I think I covered the super chats. There was one I missed there. I can't find it now. Oh, there it is. Ariel Alder King, Trump's speech on Dinesh D'Souza's YouTube channel. Yeah, it'll probably be taken down. All right, folks, I have to get going. It's 1:05. Thanks for being here. Thanks for all your super chats. And listen, we got a lot of work to do, so don't pout. Joe Biden is the president. As our friend Joel Pollack says in his book, Neither Free Nor Fair, his thesis was it was stolen legally, as in the courts changed the rules of the election months before the vote, using the pandemic as the excuse to allow mass, under-regulated voting by mail. And he's going to be on the show tonight, Joel Pollak. So, listen, what are you going to do? You want to relitigate the past, or you want to work in the present for the future? I know what I'm doing. I'm so busy. I'm so busy. We got our own battles to fight up here in Canada. I think the Americans will be able to take care of themselves. We'll help them. Until my show tonight, on behalf of all of us here, keep fighting for freedom. And I understand we just might have a dog video. Is that true? No dog video today. I caught you flat-footed because you were busy working on the Trump inauguration. You know what? I got a puppy now. By I mean the kids. I might just bring in a dog video myself one day. Don't tempt me. All right, everybody. Oh, we do have one? Oh, you got one? Okay, we got one. I'll see you later. Here's a dog video.